Didn't expect these. I know where this is going today. I don't want to go where this is going today. I'm excited to go where this is going today. It's time for Thoth to teach us more about what's actually happening now, in this time, in this rhythm of deep transformation, and how it's affecting the world that many of us experience on the surface. And with this, I give you Thoth. We wrote these stories for you. If you do not experience the current times in this way, you will run the risk of becoming deeply depressed and even terrified. The rhythms that underscore the patterns of change that are occurring on the earth within humanity are under our control. The way they impact each of you and your communities is not. It is under your influence. The primary lesson to comprehend is that as above, so below, as within, so without. Yet where you focus will dramatically change how each of these patterns impacts your direct experience of being alive in a body. When a person believes that they are restricted within this birth, this age, and this body, they will not be able to comprehend what is above and deep within. When a person believes that the external events that are occurring are beyond the influence of divine presence, they will have a very different experience of what is occurring. To believe is to set the primary tone for what you experience, and thus it is crucial that we shift your belief. Nothing that is happening is beyond the need of you. You are needed, and the first thing that you are needed for is to handle the energy you create and offer to the world. When someone is restricted within a finite story of their life, forgetting universal consciousness and being beyond the direct communication with the divine, they need to die to who they have been. The dissolution of the old self is fundamentally terrifying. To go through this transformation on your own is in many ways more terrifying at first. And yet, for all who linger and hesitate and resist the urge to awaken to the truth, for all who fight against the death that would change them into the kind of being that dances with divinity every day, you will experience the times ahead through a great shared experience of trauma. The end of the world is upon you. It is the end of the world of human history. It is the dissolution of the patterns that have maintained culture and human consciousness in the forms you have existed with up until this point. Up until this point in time, those few individuals who reached through the veils of consciousness to embrace the truth could not channel enough consequential energy to more dramatically affect the rest of the world than they did. You know many by name for a reason. They were both bookmarking the truth so you could return to it when you are ready, and establishing critical transitions in the story of humanity itself. And yet, the truth of human consciousness could not be fully present within the mainstream, because you could not have held it. Now you can. To hold the truth now is both to channel the energies of a world that is being born and to remove yourself from entanglement with the death of the old way. The old ways are dying because it is time for them to die. I urge you to recognize that for most cases, your greatest fears will be off. The visions you may have of what may come are not likely to be accurate. And in this inaccuracy, it is your job to learn to recognize that it is the energy you generate and act upon that is your gift to the world. You are needed, and the first thing you need to do is to restrain the urge to participate in a way that makes things worse. The reason that it was possible to know that this is the end of the world well before now is because the fundamental currents that have always been guiding humanity come to a critical transition at this time. This is the era of change. It is a change so fundamental that no more appropriate version of reality could be relayed to you before you go through. Everything I can tell you about the way life will be in 50 years will largely confuse your temperament until you embrace the critical connection between your own ego's death and the death of the ego of humanity as it has been. This world, as you have known it, is simply the human presence in its old forms. The old forms of humanity have existed apart from universal love. They have existed in contrast with each other, and they have existed in temporary form that was always guided by us. Understand, we can easily trust that this is a temporary experience because we know that it is based upon the momentum of wound up energy that was derived from the accumulation of all human karma. Simply put, we wound up all of this energy and then we allowed it to spin. In this unwinding, great currents of wind derived from the momentum of the ways in which the karma was wound, generated momentum that greatly wounded you. The words guide the course of the story. We generated a reality that you could not fully enjoy because we did not want you to become addicted to staying within the confines of the limits and the patterns of his story as it has been. This has always been a finite process. You have existed in relationship to the momentum of the unwinding of the collective human karma. It has generated war, it has generated pain, it has generated temporary eras of peace and creation. And during these eras, in more ways than you have been able to recognize, humanity has participated in generating what truly matters on the earth. You may know this as Christ consciousness. The purpose of the presence of the Christ was to transition energy from its true potential in pure form into presence in his story. It was not successful at first. It was not successful again. It was not successful again. And yet it rooted in a subtle and deep manner that gradually replaced the presence of the unwinding karma. You were taught to fight. You were taught to compete. You were taught to generate rivalries, seeking to win. And yet, you were pressed to transform patterns from one rhythm into another, and winning always tuned you with the presence of the world that is becoming. Consider, the presence of the world that is becoming is now ready to take over. You may make the choice to transition to hold this presence before the rest of the people around you. Those who do not hold it will suffer much more for their externalization of the transformation. The way they witness the change does not maintain responsibility for their participation in it. They think they are seeing something that is happening outside them without knowing that they are changing within themselves. What they watch is what they are. And as you learn to make this change to fully know yourself, you can die more quickly to who you have been and learn to embrace what is being born